Hello, my lovely hummingbirds, and welcome to today's episode of Rate It here on Pop Culture with your lovely host, Monroe. So, a couple things. For today's episode, what are words? Big shout out to one of my besties, Nikki, who so graciously agreed to join me on Pop Culture again for today's episode where we review Don't Worry, Darling. And, of course, how could it be pop culture if I did not do a makeup look attached to it? However, it is not in the intro of this video. The actual makeup look is going to be in the link in the description on the Spicy site. And yeah, I am going to include a little snippet here of the completed look. Just so you guys can get a look at what it looks like. Is that the makeup look that I did when we were going to actually do the review? No, it is not. Am I going to try and do pin curls again without having the pins for these curls? Absolutely. But anyway, I hope you enjoy the video for today. And yeah, okay, that's it for me for today. Enjoy the video. Bye. I'm excited.
You were way too excited.
I know. Hello, my lovely hummingbirds, and welcome back to, or welcome if you're new, to another episode of Rate It here on Pop Culture with your lovely host, Monroe. And with us today we have Nikki. And fueling today's episode we have Alarmist Brewing Tap Room, Crispy Boy. So good.
They're better today.
Yeah.
They were cold last time.
Yeah, no, they've been there for a bit, so you know they got colder.
They got crispy.
Yeah, they got crispier, yes, salud. So, today's episode, we are going to be discussing Don't Worry, Darling. Now, if you guys don't know what that is, it is a film directed by Olivia Wilde, featuring Florence Pugh, Nicholas Kroll, Harry Styles, Chris Pine, Asifa Lee, Kiki Lane, Gemma Chan, a queen, and so many more. It is such a good film in my book. I got Nikki to watch it because, you know, as you know, Nikki has been on Pop Culture before, and this is his first time on video. Yay! Also, this is a commencement of me having people on video besides my own face. Yay!
They're like, woof.
It's not just her no more, but. So, Don't Worry, Darling. We're going to start off with the rating off the cuff. 10 out of 10?
I'm going to give it a solid 9. So 10 out of 10 is because of the plot holes that we were talking about. Because I always like to, I'm a very curious person. So when something's left to the imagination, I appreciate what they're trying to do, but I want to know.
Yeah,
like,
that's fair.
Tell me.
Yeah, that's fair. So we're going to start off from the top of the film all the way to the ending. And if you have not seen the film yet, and you don't want it to get spoiled, that's not the episode for you, because there will be spoilers. Lots and lots of delicious spoilers. So, yeah, that's it. Okay. So we're going to start off with the introduction of the film. The introduction, and I was meaning to bring this up to you earlier when we were, discussing it post-watching, but I had mentioned for some other things that are going to come on this channel, music scores and how they help set the tone for the film.
Yeah.
So I did write out how in the beginning they start off with The Right Time by Ray Charles, and it kind of sets it of it's ominous because in the lyrics itself he says the nighttime is the perfect time to be with your baby, and how, yes, exactly, it clicks. And then the part where she's essentially getting, her mind is more fragmented, one of the lyrics, the song is basically called The End of the World.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. So I think the score was done very, very well. The movie starts off and it opens into this gorgeous sunshiny, bright 1950s cul-de-sac with Florence Pugh and her husband, Harry Styles. Their names in the film are Jack and Alice, and the creator of this idyllic world, or at least the face of it, is Frank, who has structured it to be this whole new world order kind of thing of they've removed themselves from society because society itself is kind of repellent and it distracts from what really matters is the whole thing. And their chant is, this world is ours, this world is ours. Now, off of the introduction itself, what did you think was the tone of the film?
So I wasn't 100% sure what the movie was going to be about. I think I even asked you to keep me blind as much as possible.
Yeah.
I wasn't. I was kind of sure that I wasn't going to expect the control that they had over that town at first. But once they started gradually saying, okay, don't go past this point, don't go to what's it called, Victory?
The headquarters.
The headquarters. Don't go in the desert. Don't listen to Margaret. She's psycho.
Psycho chicks.
Yeah. And but at first I thought it was gonna be like some sort of like murder mystery, just because I saw thriller in the description, so I was like, I wasn't 100% sure what it was gonna be, but this turned out to be better than that.
Absolutely.
Although I did kind of figure out what it was gonna be, I just didn't know to what extent.
Okay.
I was questioning whether it was going to be some sort of technological, like Matrix world kind of thing, or hypnosis, like Get Out, maybe even a fantasy world, magic, something. Who knows what it could have been? Yeah. I just know that something wasn't right because she kept getting little visions here and there of like stuff that didn't match with this 1950s utopia. Yeah. And they were very, I don't know if cryptic is the right word, but cryptic visions in her head. Yeah. And it's like, where is she getting this from? So obviously there's another world that we're not seeing yet.
Exactly. And it starts off with Alice and Jack are throwing a party, and it's not directly said in the film, but it is kind of a celebration for two of the other characters because the character is pregnant again. And one of the things that I noticed in the scene is like even the pregnant woman is drinking and smoking, which I thought was very tongue-in-cheek to like 1950s where like they didn't know so much about how to actually keep a baby healthy and all these things. So I thought that was really smart. The placement was really smart. Everyone had what the traditional sense is of the women are the homemakers, the men go off to work, and the women spend their day tending to the house, caring for the kids, going shopping, doing, not Pilates though, but doing a ballet course where all the wives of the people that work in this Victory Project go to this class. Now, the class itself is led by Shelley, who is the wife of Frank, and they are the main couple that's in charge of everything Victory. One of the things, and I don't know if you noticed it in the ballet class, where Shelley, who is portrayed by Gemma Chan, walks up behind Florence Pugh and like has her tuck in, and it's like a very like sexual innuendo, like she's attracted to her. So, and I don't know if there's any validity behind this, it's just a theory that I have. One of my theories of when they pan towards the real like relationship that Jack and Alice had, how she doesn't want him to touch her, my mindset was very of like, was she having feelings for someone else? Was it potentially a woman? Was she questioning her sexuality, which is why she's so like feels almost intimidated slightly by the way that she was touched by Shelley's character?
I thought the point of that scene was more that they're trying to create a utopia, and any imperfection in her stance was imperfection in the world. Okay. That's what I thought it was. Yeah. Because obviously that lady was like, I just don't know why she scoped her out. I mean, maybe she was the only one messing up and not doing it correctly. But I thought that once you watch the whole film, it just seems like they wanted order. They wanted they don't want chaos. And to them, her not tucking in her stomach, not lifting her chin correctly is chaos.
And to like build off that chaos though, that's why I thought of the LGBTQ connotations there, because I thought of it like her not being only about her husband and having feelings for a woman was out of the norm, because all of the couples that were in that community were all male and female.
Okay. I guess I can see that.
So other like themes within the film itself, even in the ballet scene, I told Nikki, I'm like, it reminds me of Suspiria, which is a classic cult film done in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken, and it's like very ballerina induced. There was a remake. The remake was really good. I've talked about it on here before. Amazing. But we gotta watch that next too. But one of my favorite parts, the part that you hated, was when Margaret started banging her head.
Oh, fuck.
Against the glass.
Some psychopath starts doing that. You know something's wrong. That's like the clown when he starts. With a little kid, and it's anytime someone's literally headbanging Hereditary, you know there's something wrong with that motherfucker.
Yes, the thunking of the head against anything that is not just air to the sound of music is a problem. But so the whole film revolves around this community and how it's built. Now, spoilers, it's built by Frank and Shelley to create a utopia, like Nikki said, where it is perfect 1950s traditional home life. And throughout the film, it's the process of Florence Pugh's character Alice unraveling essentially brainwashing, which we discover is what's happening. Yeah. And it's kind of a mix of like technological but also hypnosis at the same time, because they have machines to keep the women alive, because everyone except for Bunny does not know that they are in this program. And the one thing that I did like, so when she's in the water, it kind of reminded me of The Sunken Place in Get Out, because it's like so like isolated. Obviously it's not just pitch black, like she's in water, and water kind of represents purity, and also the one thing that she loved to do, because it was the only time that you really see her, besides when she starts veering off doing anything by herself, she's swimming.
Yeah.
The part that I found interesting, and when like the first glimpse of her unraveling, is when she looks at the egg and cracks it and nothing comes out. So what did you think about that scene?
So that kind of gave it Matrix vibes as some sort of glitch. I just wasn't. That's where I started thinking, okay, this is not what it seems. I don't think anyone would have. I didn't think it was like what's that movie where they create their own little world? The M. Night Shyamalan movie, where they think the entire world went to apocalypse, but really they just isolated themselves.
I don't remember which one it is.
I forget the name of it, but
yeah.
I wasn't sure if this was just a set stage in the middle of the desert, like in real life, or if this was a simulation. But like that, because it would be hard for someone to just take a regular egg, take the yolk out of it without breaking it.
Right.
It's like, okay, something's not right. This is an illusion somehow.
Yeah.
So that was the first where I started thinking it had to be some sort of other world.
And with that, one of like the theories that I have, so I have a lot of theories when it comes to the imagery used in the film itself, because eggs essentially represent life. Because women, in order to like make a baby, right, the sperm and the egg is what it's called, have to fertilize and then boom, baby. A lot more complicated than that, but that's the gist of it. And when she crushes it, in my eyes, I kind of took it as symbolism of like, oh, she's one, cracking nature to what it is for them in that sense. It's the breaking of her innocence and purity, because she's no longer fully immersed into the delusion of the world that like was created for them, because that's what gets her to start to question where the food is coming from.
Yeah, because now that you think about it, there's really no animals in the movie either.
Exactly. It's just kids, and all the kids are fake. So After that, right, we move forward into one of the things that I love about the film itself is that it is not a slow burn film. It doesn't take forever to figure out that something's wrong. And like, I have plot twists on my handy dandy notes that I write, and immediately the plot twists start to happen because they talk early on of how Margaret has issues and how she can get Ted fired. And Margaret is seen then as Alice is taking down the clothing from like the clothesline, just standing in the sun, her eyes closed, clutching a red airplane. Mm-hmm. So the story with Margaret is she took her kid, her little boy, out to the desert, which the desert is off limits. They're not supposed to go there. And my theory is she never actually reached headquarters, but her kid, who is not real, did. And if the kid touched it, he disappeared from her. And in her mind, now realizing that I am in the simulation, this is not real, but my kid was my prize for being here. So my theory with that is like Bunny obviously knows everything, but I think Margaret also went into it thinking I'm at least gonna have my kid, but then realizing this isn't natural, we shouldn't be here, I'm tied up somewhere. All these women are also tied up somewhere. Overall, the dynamics of the film, how did you think like it was portrayed when it comes to the characters and their specific storylines?
What do you mean their specific storylines? Like when it reveals that that world is fake, or what do you mean?
No, like during like how Alice and Jack are like they're painted as newlyweds and don't want kids, and then how Bunny's already like the experienced mom, and then I think it's Peg. Peg is very like, oh, she has babies all the time and all that. Like, how do you think the dynamics like function?
Well, it was more, I mean, that's what at least one person in that relationship wanted. Mm-hmm. So, and you're asking how that impacted the film? Or
how do you think it helped build the plot? Later on to find out like what we know of how only one person in the relationship really knows.
Oh, okay. So like the newlyweds, for example, they came out of nowhere, and it was almost like they were being welcomed into this
family.
Like this whole group of people, and
Bill and Violet.
I wasn't. At that point, I honestly got a little bit of a cult vibe. Mm-hmm. Like, are they? What is the initiation? Like, what are they signing up for?
Right.
You know? So that's what threw me off too. I'm like, they voluntarily came in here. Mm-hmm. So obviously, you know, people are coming in by choice. Mm-hmm. And then that makes you question, like, okay, so why is Margaret the one that thinks that she's stuck?
Right.
Or that she's being held there by
against her will.
Mm-hmm. So I think that helped unravel it a little bit, because she did. I think they called her a deer in the headlights, or what did she say? A scared little deer in the headlights, or something.
Yeah,
like that?
she's as scared as a baby deer in headlights.
Yeah.
So she gets welcomed into essentially a wives club. That's what the ballet studio is. And one of the things that I noticed that I found very interesting, not all of them wear the same outfits. Right. So some were in all black, some were half pink, half black, and then as she's new, she comes in all pink. And then later on, when they're dancing, as Alice's psyche starts to like crumble, you see there's more people in pink, which means there's more people coming into the program. Mm-hmm. And what I found really interesting is that was the choice, like it was such a specific choice to then put Margaret in all pink to show that like she was kind of back to her innocence of not being aware of what's actually happening.
Okay.
When she's like banging her head against the thing.
Yeah.
Atrocious. So one of the things, and we talked about this, how the dynamic, they bring up the whole having children thing, of how Alice and Jack are like, oh no, we don't want kids. And then I thought this was super interesting how when things start to unravel, the people in Victory are kind of like, hey, you should suggest, like, obviously it's not said in the film, but like, you should suggest, oh, let's have a baby. Right before Jack's very big promotion that wasn't supposed to happen there. I felt like he was kind of being coerced into, no, look, you need to stay here. You need to essentially get Alice under control. One of the things, did you notice when he was dancing, how it seemed almost like non-voluntary?
Yeah.
I think that's super interesting, and the fact that you mentioned cult vibes, which it definitely did. Whenever someone says this world is ours and we're creating a better world and we are all a family here, cult vibes immediately. But there's a point where he's dancing, and the only thing I can think of, I'm like, oh my god, Harry Styles is a dancing monkey right now. Like, he literally has to put on a performance that kind of reminds me of like how people talk about Illuminati, like humiliation rituals.
Yeah.
Where it was like supposed to humiliate him into subservience to Frank and Victory.
Like hazing into a frat.
Yeah, essentially. So some of the turning points, obviously the egg cracking scene when Margaret is sitting there with the plane, and as well as all the snippets of her conditioning, which we would learn later on is what they're doing with the ballet dancing. It's the same routine that they see as they're tied up to beds and have IVs in them. So there's this one part with like Dr. Collins is very ominous for a really long time. Like until we actually meet him and see him and you're like, yep, that's the evil guy right there. It's him. It can't be Chris Pine. It's that guy. And you mentioned something of how like all his documents are so redacted, and you were like, that's like CIA level redaction.
I started thinking like, what's that LSD thing that they did? The CIA.
The fucking mind control. It's MK Ultra.
MK Ultra.
MK Ultra.
I started
yes.
getting very MK Ultra vibes from that.
Exactly. And there's this part at that party where we first are like officially introduced to Dr. Collins, where Margaret starts to have her break, like full on mental break. And she's like, why the hell are we here? And everyone's like, you know, clutching their pearls and shit. And Frank, being the oh so charismatic cult leader at this point, is like, no, she's right. Why the hell are we here? And like reframes it to we're here because we're making the world better. We're improving things. All this stuff. And again, that's when you start to see them trying to appease Bill and Violet, mainly Violet, who looks fucking scared. Like, she looks throughout it very unsure, very like, oh my god, what is happening? And very like kind of timid, but to herself, like she's fearing for her life is the image that I got from that. No, my favorite part though, you were like, I don't know who's the hotter couple. So Nikki was like, when they introduce Harry Styles.
I never got the I'm like, what is the big deal?
He's like, what's the appeal to this man? And then, you know, Harry Styles in a blue suit looking fine. And he's like, I get it now. I see. I understand. I'm like, it's the suit effect.
It's the hair. It's luxurious.
Yes, so true. Oh my god. And then when you see the stark contrast of like him in waking life.
Oh god.
So bad. He looks so decrepit. Like he looks malnourished, honestly.
Yeah, like he looked, like Joaquin Phoenix in The Joker, like vibes. Like just he looked jobless and
broken.
He was a broken man.
He was a broken man.
And that's why he had to hypnotize for Florence Pugh. That's the only reason.
She would stay with him?
Yeah, so she would stay with him. I bet you anything she was getting ready to leave.
You know, honestly, yeah, because... So, one of the themes in the film, as far as Jack and Alice, and I was telling Nikki, like, Jack's biggest issue with why he agreed to be part of the Victory Project, why he not even agreed, why he pushed himself into there, was because he felt emasculated. Because he was jobless, he couldn't get another job, while Alice was like reassuring him and saying like, I can pick up more shifts. He himself felt emasculated of, oh, but I'm supposed to take care of you type of vibes. And she was like...
Which I don't understand, because she's a doctor, so why are they in that shitty ass apartment?
Yeah.
That's one. Like, I'm not saying she has to be in a fucking, you know, Hilton, like, top of the floor fucking.
Yeah.
But that was a shithole.
Yeah.
And even if he wasn't working, they could have gotten something nicer. So I don't know what the deal is. Maybe Maybe he never had a job.
But also, a lot of what we see of that apartment is from his perspective. We don't see her perspective of the apartment until you see at the end where she's just like dancing happily. It looks bright and warm, and it wasn't their house. It was that apartment. So I think that like us seeing it being so shitty was his perspective of, because I'm not providing, this is not good enough.
That does make sense.
Because I looked at it and I was like, they got a lot of doors in this place. And I'm like, that place looks big as fuck. So there's no way it's so run down. But one of like the big points too of it is how this all started because he started listening to a podcast.
A very toxic masculinity podcast.
A toxic alpha male podcast.
Very Andrew Tate vibes.
Literally. It really was.
Man, those guys really like to pat themselves on the back. Doing a good job, buddy.
Yes, take your wife and put her into a coma.
Yeah.
Like it really was that energy. And you even see him with the giant monitor and then the monitor to the side where he has the chat open. I wish we could have zoomed in to see what was in that chat, because it's probably just a bunch of dudes ranting and bitching.
Dude, put that bitch in her place. Bro.
You know, honestly. And also, you know what I found, like, after watching it this time and I noticed that, I was like, if you look at all the wives and all the husbands, there's such a contrast in beauty.
Yeah, Nick Kroll.
Yeah.
Nick Kroll with Olivia Wilde.
Yeah.
But the fact that she's conscious of it makes me question the entire movie. It's like, okay, what's going on? I mean, obviously she did it for the kids.
Yes.
So that's what kept her there.
Yes.
But Nick Kroll, nothing against him, he's funny, but goddamn.
You're like the contrast.
Olivia Wilde, Nick Kroll. Come on, man. I know he's funny, but he's not that fucking funny.
Maybe he's the Roger Rabbit to his Jessica.
Okay, well, he kind of looks like a rabbit. He's got those...
My God.
Those buck teeth.
I messed up. So the whole story behind Bunny is she lost her kids in the real world. We don't know how. We don't know to what capacity. But she willingly entered the program. And when Alice asks her, do they all know? She's like, no. But there's a point where she finally remembers everything and remembers her life and how she's a doctor and she was essentially saving lives. That, you know, she looks at Jake's character like, what the hell? It was my life. You took my life from me. He's like, no, I gave you all of this, because essentially she's living carefree to some extent, doesn't have to work, doesn't have to worry, doesn't have to do anything. And he's like, you hated your life. You were miserable. And she's like, but it was mine. It was my choice. And one of the things that I love was the turning point in her head where she's like, wait, so the wives are trapped here.
It was only the wives, right? Mm-hmm. But Bunny was the only one conscious of it.
Her and Shelley.
And Shelley, right.
And Shelley. And my theory is that Margaret was at first too, like she willingly went in because she was promised like, you'll get your kid. But then the reality started to unfold for her of like, but it's not really my son. That's just my theory.
No, I think, because if she went in there willingly, she would have had more, she would have been more specific about
of like what was going on,
of why she's there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because she was just spotting things. Oh, they don't want us to go over there, but she didn't have specific details.
She was cracking.
Yeah.
Okay, fair. One of the other things, right, that I love, and I love the way that this film puts so many people that could be essentially villains in it. But the ultimate villain, so to say, was Shelley, and Frank was just kind of the face of everything.
I told you, Chris Pine's too handsome.
You literally did say that.
I was right.
You were. He's like, when Chris Pine was giving the speech when they're at a party at his house and everything, he's like, it can't be Chris Pine. He's too handsome. He can't be the villain. That's when they show Dr. Collins and he's like, it's him. He's the bad guy. He's the evil one.
Because at least, not to say he's ugly, but he's got that
villainous. Yeah, he does.
He's at least part of it, which he was.
Which he was, yeah. And it was so funny though when, not haha funny, but when Shelley kills essentially Frank, who's Chris Pine's character, she like sticks the knife in him and twists it. And she's like, oh, you stupid man. And she's like, it's my turn. And this is at the culmination towards the end of the film where Florence Pugh is essentially trying to escape. And there's a part where she sees Jack again and feels him like he's there. And I told Nikki, I'm like, my theory about that is that was kind of Shelley's doing of like, let me just implement this falseness to try and get her to say so we can capture her again. But I do love the imagery of the whole film itself, and how when she starts to shatter, you see the ink blot made out of blood.
Yeah.
That was super cool. So we are in agreement about one of the theories that this was not her first time exiting the simulation because of the electroshock therapy and how it goes.
Yeah, for that. And what was the first thing that started, like, was it the eggs?
The eggs was the first part. Then it was Margaret holding the plane, and then Florence sees an aeroplane that looks exactly like the toy one crashing.
Right. So it's like, and we don't know what's causing these things.
Mm-hmm.
They could be, for lack of a better phrase, glitches in the Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's, because you don't know if someone's causing it, or if it, like I said, it's just a random, a random bug in the system.
Yes.
So I'm also wondering if, because because the plane wouldn't have. So remember towards the end when she finally cracks everything down, when she figures out she's in a simulation, everything starts breaking, everything starts exploding. I'm wondering if she caused the eggs not to crack the yolk.
Yes, I think so.
But I'm wondering what, if that's the case, that's probably what gave us the impression that she's figured it out before, and that's why she's figuring out it again. You know, because nothing really caused that.
Right.
So it's just in the back of her mind somewhere,
yes,
trying to get out, trying to enter, like, hey, dude, get out of here.
Yes.
You know?
And also, I love the part, like I said, the music in here was phenomenal. It really set the tone for everything.
Yeah.
Especially because she keeps humming a song, and Bunny gets mad every time. She's like, what is that song? I'm so irritated. And she's like, I don't know, I can't figure it out. So it turns out, every time that Jack essentially exits the simulation to keep her alive, he's singing that song. So she remembers it. She doesn't remember the lyrics right away. She just remembers like the melody to it and is humming it until the end, towards when she finally breaks, is because he starts singing it and then it just clicks.
In real life, he's singing it in her ear while he's like nursing her, basically.
Yeah, which creepy.
Yeah.
So creepy. Also, was he eating tuna? I wasn't sure when he's like going to revive her. I don't know if he was literally just living off tuna. They looked like cat food cans, so I don't know.
I don't know. You do have to pay attention
to the details.
I wouldn't recommend eating during this movie because I missed a lot of parts that I had to rewind. Like, there's glimpses of these things that if you don't pay attention, you will miss it. Like, just that part where the food changed.
Yeah.
If you hadn't caught that,
yeah,
and I was eating my food, I would have never known that happened.
Yeah. So there's a part where, and that's another massive glitch for her, because she starts to saran wrap her fucking face, and she's essentially wrapping a bowl of salad, and it changes to a plate of like sandwiches. And in that process, she starts to saran wrap her head, like she's essentially losing her mind. She's cracking, because to some extent her psyche knows like this is not real. And like you said with the eggs, like there being no yolk, it kind of does allude to the fact that she's left before. And also when Bunny says that Jack won't be able to bring you back this time, it didn't sound like her going to headquarters that one time was the only time that it had happened. To me, it sounded more like, no, you've done this before. Yeah,
and I could see that, because that would probably encourage them to try to work out those kinks. Because if there's no problem, they're never going to solve it.
Exactly, and you can see that even when Frank approaches her in the kitchen and admits to everything. And he's like, but you didn't believe Margaret either, so it makes sense. Why would anybody believe you? And he's like, I'm intrigued by you because no man has ever changed the world without being challenged, and you're a challenge for me. And the other reason that I think that in the waking life there might have been infidelity with Jack and Alice was because of him mentioning, while we know it's because he saw them fucking in his bedroom, the way that he phrased it, it was like putting in the she cheated on you thing as like a reminder to him of if you go back out there, she's gonna leave you.
Oh.
That's the way that like I took it.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
No, I think it was more, yeah, it sounded like he was, now that I think about it, he was picking at his insecurities.
Yeah. And it's this whole thing of like, it really was, with Frank's character, a turn of a phrase for everything, because even when he speaks out at the dinner table of Alice's character and how, you know, the whole bedroom thing, he also just openly starts to say all of her psychosis, all this stuff. How can they trust her? She went out into the desert, basically admitting you weren't crazy, you did do that, you saw the plane and all this stuff, but you put everybody else in danger. No one can trust you now. Which means now everyone is like, ooh, bad. Ooh, this is bad. And it also gets me to question how often all the women receive treatment and conditioning, because Bill looks so scared in that moment that Violet is gonna like malfunction. So, and Violet, when they first are at that party, I don't know if you remember, she's like, oh yes, I've had consultations with Dr. Collins. He's such a good man. He's so nice. So I don't know how frequently this electrotherapy brainwashing's been happening, but not fun.
It's probably something they have to do often because it seems like their system is based on them being delusional.
Yeah.
Otherwise it doesn't work.
Yeah. And I know they said that like all the women there are basically oblivious, but I don't think so. I think the martini dancer, the women in the shopping center that are selling them things, and the nurses obviously are all aware. They have to be.
Well, they might be part of it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
They might even be fake.
Ooh, I didn't think about that.
Because if the kids are fake, why not them?
Yeah. That's crazy. Which brings me to the requirements for them, as like once Jack submits the application, you see the process of like they take his age, weight, hair color, everything, but also his desired nationality, which I was like, that's so hilarious. They're not going to force Harry Styles to do an American accent throughout the movie. I love that for him. But his desired nationality was British. I was like, oh my god, that's perfect. But one of the things, and this was the part that I was like, ooh, way to throw that in there, Olivia Wilde, and make it even more uncomfortable, is when they're listing out his chosen wife as Alice Warren, one of the things that Dr. Collins says is pre-existing relationship, yes. And I was like, ooh, gross.
That's disgusting.
That is atrocious, meaning that we don't know how many of these women actually are not even with these men in real life. I don't think Peg was.
Which one was Peg?
The pregnant one.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. Because when she sees Alice, there's a shift in her face and she looks down and like at her stomach and she looks horrified. And I'm like, ooh. Either she was with him and like didn't want kids, or something happened where they ended things and she's like, wait, I'm trapped here too. But I do think that Violet had no idea who the fuck even Bill was. That's my whole mindset on that.
Violet was a newlywed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that I agree with you on.
Yeah.
That guy was creepy.
Yeah.
Like, it puts the lotion in the basket creepy.
Oh my god.
That guy has a cellar somewhere with a sewing machine.
Not a sewing machine. No, but it's so true, because he was the one that also seemed very like drastically concerned with everything going right.
Yeah.
Like, if this doesn't go right, I'm dead, right? Type of thing. Oh, my favorite part was that I'm not crazy. I was like, you never say that. That's what makes you crazy. Don't tell them you're not crazy. The part that was sad is Margaret does unalive herself by slitting her throat, and they painted it off as, oh, she was cleaning the windows on the roof and she fell off. And I was like, there were, first off, windows on that roof, I didn't see them. Secondly, what? that fall would not kill you. And it would give you way more than a few stitches though. But there were obviously men in red suits that worked for the Victory Project. When you mentioned the CIA level redaction on Margaret's document, I was like, oh my God, what if this is actually governmental level project?
That's what I thought it was. I thought it was MK Ultra because it's LSD. Maybe this is all a hallucination. So I'm like, how would they get other people in to someone else's hallucination?
Yeah.
That's where it kind of, or if they needed hallucinogens to make them think.
And the fact that I don't know if you saw where he squeezes the thing into her mouth. I'm like, it wouldn't be water because she'd choke on it. And she had an IV, so she wouldn't need the water.
So what do you?
I'm thinking it was a chemical, probably like LSD, a hallucinogen, because he would also pour it into her eyes.
Well, it's her eyes because her eyes are. It's probably like the solution then.
Maybe.
Because she's keeping them open, they're dry.
Yeah, which logical sense, yes, but she's also hooked up to an IV, which keeps your body running on fluids.
Not if the eyes are stuck open.
Really?
You never seen
No. Before you say no, I haven't.
they do that in I think they do it in a Clockwork Orange. They're constantly keeping his eye drops.
Yes.
Because the more you keep them open, you're not blinking the
so there's no
fluid or whatever.
Yeah.
Moisture, whatever you want to call it.
Gross.
So they have to constantly
lubricate.
There's another movie where they do that. I just can't remember. But they had to keep their eyes open, and every once in a while they put drops so that their eyes don't get dry. I can't think of the movie right now, but I remember.
So maybe it was just water that he poured into her mouth. I don't know though. I feel like she would choke on it.
Or she's still well, maybe that's why it's drops instead of him forcing a cup of water in there. Maybe it's just. But you're right. She did have an IV, so maybe her mouth doesn't get dry or something.
I don't know if it's that or if that's how they're administering.
No, because
what if it doesn't have to go into the bloodstream, but it has to go into
unless the IV's what's knocking them out.
It could be that,
and it's not saline solution.
Yeah.
I thought it was just him keeping her hydrated.
Yeah. And he does it every day, so it would be
just enough to keep her alive, her body alive.
Yeah.
Because she's got to be atrophied at that point.
Which is also sickening.
I kind of wish they showed that though. That would have given it a more creepy vibe. She's been there for months. Yeah. Her muscles haven't moved, and she's just skin and bones.
Yeah.
I know that's kind of creepy, but that would give it more of
an idea of how long she's been there. Yeah. Because the fact of how I mentioned the outfits, how she has an all black outfit, and how her and Bunny are so tight, and how she's even seen Margaret before Margaret unraveled, and how she saw how so many of them that are there and their friends, she saw them get there. So I think she's been there from almost the beginning, obviously not right away, but I feel like she's been there from almost the beginning, and like you said, she's kind of the project that's helping them tweak everything out.
Right, okay.
One of the things that I was I have questions about were the tremors. So you know how they're yeah. Because they're not earthquakes, and they know that they're not earthquakes. They're at least we know that they're doing something. We know that they're actually working. So my question is is it the machine itself where the programming is? Or is it that when the guys all leave for work, all the women are collectively kind of cracking a little bit? So they have to go and re-administer the fluids and everything to keep them in that delusional state.
Maybe that's... Did the tremors happen when the husbands were gone?
The tremors pretty much all happened when the husbands were gone. There was only one when they were leaving for work that it was her and Harry. And he was oh, I gotta go. It was this very, it's time to fucking go type of thing.
That's... Yeah, maybe whatever anesthesia or whatever they're using to keep them asleep was running out. Or they needed to do their treatment or whatever. Yeah. Or it could even be the people of victory, telling them, like, hey, come on, motherfucker, let's go.
Like, it's time.
Even just moving their body, maybe that's what
is causing the tremors. Yeah. There's never really an explanation for it in the film. Also, the scene with the trolley driver when she reaches towards the desert, and he's very dismissive, and I was like, that does seem like that would be a very 1950s trolley driver, like, nope, that's not my route, goodbye type of thing.
Yeah, the CTA buses don't even do that.
No. And like very dismissed her, and she looks at him like, what's wrong with you? People need help. And he's kind of just like, well, we have a problem kind of face. So I definitely think like he's the one that called victory and was like, hey, she went off the beaten path. She found it, go get her. Because how else? There's never really an explanation of how she got back home.
There's not an explanation, but I think she did escape.
And like Jack was just next to her.
Yeah, because he was already out.
Yeah.
So she probably woke up and
freaked out,
bashed her head in or something, and then.
Well, but she had the fucking psych ward restraints. Her hands and feet were tied to the bed.
No, but my point is that she woke up.
Oh yeah.
And he probably just bashed her head in real quick or something, or gave her a sedative.
Yeah.
And knocked her back out.
Yeah.
So I think she did escape that time. Because she did the exact same thing she did at the end. She touched the door.
Yeah, she did.
So she had to have escaped for at least, I don't know.
Few hours.
Nah, I wouldn't say a few hours. Or maybe she just doesn't remember.
Yeah.
Because while they're gone, he's actually doing a job.
Yeah.
Right? So
he's actually working.
So he might have not even been home.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, it had to have been a few hours, but the building itself, all the doors have that victory like lock thing on it, which means, and it looks like an abandoned building from the outside in this like dingy ass place, which also kind of has the same look and feel of their apartment when he's remembering, which I find to be super interesting because I'm like, well, that's atrocious. Like, you literally have her. Also, the amount of medical work that has to be put to keep these people alive, because like, they have to have catheters in them because otherwise they're not going to be pissing and shitting themselves, But the thing about it is, if those people were brought in, it was only for initial installation, because when they're giving him the whole debrief of you have to take care of your own wife, he's the one that basically has to tend to all of that. So that means that like he's switching those catheters out, he's switching those IVs out, like he's doing all the medical shit. Which also I feel like is not safe. Obviously the whole project itself is fucking bonkers. But just, that can't be sanitary and that can't be fucking safe. I'm pretty sure Bill doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. That's why Violet looks as traumatized as she is.
Okay, yeah. Bill, I know he's the new guy, but yeah, he just looked just as lost as she was, pretty much.
Yeah. I was just like, this looks wrong. This looks very not okay. I feel like some of the people that work there, though, some of them might have been coerced into doing it. Like, as far as the men, like, hey, do this, we'll give you money type of thing. And then for Jack, because he applied to it, he had to essentially go and work and make his own fucking money to survive at that point. But one of the interesting points is, if the men get killed inside that world, they die in the real life, which I'm a little confused about.
Why?
Because, say one of the, like, how Margaret slit her own throat, then she wouldn't have died there. If the women can't die in, like, it kind of alluded to the fact that the women can't die in that world, but the men can.
No, I wouldn't say that.
No?
They never really specified. Did they say if the men die? I'm pretty sure they say if we die in here.
No, she said the men. She's like, if the men get killed in here, they die. In the real world.
Maybe because they're aware? I don't know.
Would it be that?
Because you would imagine that with this technology, somebody has to build the world, right? Like, if you think about like the movie Inception.
Okay.
They needed someone to be the architect.
Right.
To build the world that they're in. and obviously that person would have to be aware, you know. So I'm wondering if that has something to do with it, because obviously anybody who's there against their will or has to be disillusioned to think that's real. That's real to them, even though all the men and Olivia Wilde know that it's fake. So that's a good question. I don't know. They didn't really get into the science of it. All they just showed the eye thing, and that they're hooked up to a bunch of IVs and shit. But yeah, as far as the science of it, that's something that they didn't really specify.
No, it kind of just leaves it up to question.
And that's the thing with this movie, is that it does that a lot.
Yeah.
I would like it if a couple things were cleared up.
Yeah.
But stuff like that mattered. You know, I don't think it's important to know why they would die. But like other little plot holes that weren't answered, like Chris Pine not being the main villain. Kind of wish they expanded on that, because then they just ended
with him just getting killed by Shelley. And
Shelley's, you know, like, what is she gonna do now? Because she said it's my turn, and then it's the end of the movie. So
yeah, no, that's so true. Like that's one point where it's like, why? I guess like the real mysterious character here was Shelley. Like, why? It was her money. Let's be real. It was her money that built this and built up Frank to then recruit people to get to agree to do this. That's kind of also what led me to think it was probably a government project, and like they were like agents that were essentially paired up together to make it work, was my theory behind that. But there is really no expansion. She is a very ominous character though, and you can tell that like she runs shit.
Another thing I noticed too, because if they were smart, right? Because here's why I think that the women can die, is because, yeah, you know, there's knives and everything, but if they really wanted to just reset it, they would have had guns.
Yeah.
Like that car chase, that they really just wanted to kill Florence Pugh and then reset her, they could have used guns instead of just a stupid pointless car chase. I mean, but if they needed to keep the body alive, or the fake body, like the fake, the
one in the simulation.
The one in the simulation, if they needed to keep it alive, they wouldn't have guns.
Yeah, I know. It leaves a lot for question. And like you mentioned, there are so many details in this movie, like the food changing, as I mentioned, the like everything that has to do with Victory that is essentially secretive is green. I'm kind of alluding to like they're in a matrix of some sort, because all of the if they're a danger to society documents are in a green envelope versus everybody else's. There's this point where Chris Pine is talking and his sunglasses are like hitting the sun right, but they're green, and it's like such a contrast to the rest of it that's around them. Also, their home is the most green one. It's like shrubbery everywhere, and I'm like, we have a very big emphasis on this. One of the things too is how Florence Pugh's character gets darker and darker as she starts to descend, and then when they do her therapy and she's all better, she's floral and bright and bubbly again. I love that. I was like, ooh, well done. Well done to the costume department. But as far as look and feel of the film, one of the quotes that he mentioned was, the enemy of progress is chaos. Okay? And how chaos is essentially what makes life faulty. It prohibits things from happening. I like the imagery of like the red when she touches it, and it's like she's breaking through the fold essentially. But there's also this point in the party where they give him the promotion, where they give Jack the promotion. The people behind Florence, some of those people that are like very, I guess, head honchos of Victory, they're the ones with the red candles on their table. And not everyone has those. The other people have like regular, like bright, like white yellow candles.
Okay.
So I thought that was super interesting too.
I don't pay attention to that.
The part that broke my heart though was when she's like, we just need to go, we just need to leave, and he says okay, and all I could think of in my head, I was like, she's never been gaslit before, because that was not an okay of agreeance. It was an okay of, I can't do this, but you don't know that yet. And then she gets taken away and she's like, please, they're hurting me. And I was like, damn you, Harry Styles, save her. How dare you?
That's where I saw his acting, where he was like, fuck.
Yes.
Like, that is like where I gave him, I was like, nice job, dude. You know, because it's hard. I think it's hard for actors to get a good yell-in. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of actors that can do it really well.
Yeah.
And he did it really well. And just like for a point of reference, like another good actor who's good for yelling, like just whether it's tragic, whether it's like he's trying to save somebody, is Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Like he's got a voice for yelling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's supposed to like this is another example. He wasn't yelling like anything, like he was just being loud. Tropic Thunder.
Oh.
Because his character is like a loud, boisterous, like he talks shit to your face.
Yeah.
And that needed Tom Cruise's voice for that.
Yeah.
Because he can raise his voice where it's like, it's not cracking, but it's so fierce. Yeah. The way he says these words.
It's a solid fucking tone to it behind the yell.
Yeah. And not a lot of people could do that. And Harry Styles did that with, like, honestly,
you felt it. You felt the pain.
I started like, damn, he really did not want to do that.
No, yeah. And that's one of the things that like makes I feel their relationship so tragic, is he does genuinely love her. Yeah. And the only reason they're in this simulation to begin with is his insecurities. So to some extent, every single day he feels at fault. He feels like shit. Which is why I feel like he kind of sings to her to kind of appease her and himself in that process of like, no, I'm actually doing this for us. No, I'm actually doing something right. Because to some extent himself, he has been brainwashed. Because at the point where Frank gives him the ring, that he's like, oh, you're like higher up now. To me, he kind of looked scared of him in that moment. Yeah. Like he looked like, oh shit. Like it was that point of no return for his character. Of like, this is it. Because now he's in charge of recruiting, which I found to be interesting.
When did they say that?
They didn't say it the day after of the party. He doesn't say recruiting. He says a different word, but where it's like he has to essentially find new people to join the project. And did you see the part where like the car is leaving? She's exiting Victory and it says Victory Phase 2. Yeah. Which means they're like extending. I also found really interesting how it's all shaped like a record. The whole town, when they do the aerial view, it's circular like a record, and they make an emphasis. Obviously, it's based in the 1950s, but everything revolves around a record, which is very known to be like typical brainwashy when it comes to like Illuminati and culty stuff. Like there's always the scratch of a record. I loved it. I don't know. That's my whole thing. I do like the contrast that they make with color, with tone. You can see Olivia Wilde is really good in this film. Not just her acting itself, but you can see the slight tweaks of unhingedness when she sees that the world that she wants to be in has issues. Because when she tells her, like, you're talking like Margaret, what are you doing? Because not only is it destroying her friend, because I feel like she really did care about Alice. Yeah. She really did. And she's not just worried that they're going to fucking kill her friend if she breaks the system, but also you're breaking my system. You're breaking my ability to be with my kids. And you see her crazy eyes when she says, like, but they're alive here. I was like, ooh, Olivia. I was like, oh my God. Right, Bobbert? That's right. Like that, she did phenomenal. She really did.
Yeah, it's the first time I've seen Olivia Wilde in that capacity. Because I really only know her as Remy Hadley in Dr. House, the House MD show. And she doesn't really, she has certain moments where she does have to be serious in that show, but her character in that show is very serious, very to herself. So to see her as a very friendly, very
like out there
kind of woman
with more range too.
Yeah, exactly. That's it's nice to see another side of actors that, because I honestly can't think of I feel like there's one more movie I have seen her in. I just can't remember it right now. But yeah, this sort of brought out a new side of her. Plus the fact that she directed it means that that's what she wanted for her character, and I think that's, hats off to her.
Yeah, for sure. I also love that Florence did her iconic lip tremble. So she did this interview where they asked her, they're like, they're like, we know the movie's gonna be good when Florence Pugh does this, and she's like, the sad part of that is I can't actually control that. That's not an acting tic. She's like, that's just my face. She's like, whenever I cry, she's like if I start crying right now, it's gonna tremble. I don't know. She's like, but it works. And I was like, yes, the lip, it's trembling, it's gonna get so good.
Yeah, it came out in Midsummer, it came out in Mother, it came out. No, she didn't really cry in Black Widow. But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. We've all seen it.
Oh yeah. I think they did really good. While they didn't explain so much in the film itself around victory, around the science behind it, like they didn't get too detailed, but I think that actually helped the film be what it was.
Yeah.
Like, I think that really helped fill in mystery for it. Like, if they had gotten more into detail, I think it would have become more sci-fi than a thriller itself.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, if they focused too much on the science, it would have been... For what it is, I think if they wanted to explain it more, it would have made a really good series. Even if it was only like a season or two. But for a movie, for what it was, I think you can leave that out. And just... It's not important. All you need to know is that whatever they're using is causing some sort of matrix effect where you're in another world that was fabricated, basically.
Yeah. So one of the things that I liked about the delusions that she was having, right? Obviously, they're watching a video and hearing Frank's voice, and how it goes into like hypnotism almost because of the form of repetition. The imagery of it being like the eye opening and then like dilating essentially and then like going back to normal was very interesting to me. I think it's good as a standalone film.
Yeah.
I think this is a film we just need to leave alone.
I don't think it needs a sequel. But if it does, it should be Olivia Wilde's choice. Like, whoever was part of this movie, who created it, should be the one to decide, okay, we need a part 2. But if someone else is brought in, like some executive thought, oh, we made double the money or something, let's make another one. And Olivia Wilde's like, no. And they're like, okay, we'll bring in someone else who'll do it. It's like, that's why I say don't do it.
Yeah, like, don't touch it.
Yeah, it's fine by itself. Just like, yeah, there's a lot of movies that don't need sequels, and this is one of them.
Yeah. What were your favorite parts of the film?
One of my favorites was at the end when Harry Styles' character finally just
snaps,
lets it all out and tells her what's going on, and that's where it reminded me of Inception, where if the person realizes they're in a dream or they're in an illusion, everything starts falling apart. Which I thought that's what was going to happen, but obviously it wasn't enough. She needed still to get to that door. But that's what it was in the Inception movie, that the person they're trying to incept, if they figured out that was fake, that was a dream, they would wake up. So I thought that was a cool effect. Another favorite, there were a couple, but I'm trying to think of like my top favorites. Pretty much, I don't know, anything with Florence Pugh that where she's trying to figure this out, where she's putting the pieces together, and the part where it completely switches her to surgery, because you think she's still
The one on the table.
The one on the table, and I'm like, wait, what the fuck?
Yeah, and you're like, wait.
I'm like, I've been watching this whole time. What the hell did I miss?
yeah, that was a really good transition.
And it's like,
They did that really fucking well.
And then you go to this other life, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Mm-hmm. And I like how you, how we compared that podcast that
Harry's listening to.
Harry is listening to, and I'm like, that could easily have been Andrew Tate.
So true.
Easily.
Because it really is. It was a fucking Discord chat of just a bunch of dudes bitching how they're not man enough in the real world and they want to be part of victory because if they're just given the chance, they will be the man that they're meant to be, type of thing. So definitely playing on their insecurities for sure.
That very, sort of like that. And the way they did it, they made Harry Styles ugly.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Yeah, they really did. And Nicky made a great point. He's like, now if that's what they did to Harry Styles, imagine what Frank looked like in the real world. Like, he had to be bummy. Like, he could not have looked as fine and refined as he did in Victory. Overall, I think it was a really solid film. I agree. One of my favorite scenes is where he just breaks down and confesses everything, because even in that scene you can see they really do genuinely love each other, which makes it so conflicting. But you can see Jack's character unravel because he starts gripping her to the point where you could see he's using force, and had he not let her go, he probably would have injured her, realistically, or something would have happened. I mean, she killed him at the end, but you could see the conflict in her character, in Alice, because she's like, I love you, I do love you, and then she's like, oh my god, but what the fuck, right? So I think that play on their dynamics was super interesting, showing the contrast of what it was like for them outside of Victory to what it was now. And it was a really, really well-made film. My other favorite parts, besides the headbanging in the ballet studio, because I love that part, it was so good, because it showed the cracking of the glass. That was the point where she shattered, and I was like, the imagery. But Olivia Wilde bold to use mirrors as much as she did in this movie, because one of any interview that you see for any film, they're like, oh my god, the worst part was having to film with the mirrors to avoid the reflections. And I'm just like, oh,
here's another favorite part, when she's in the tub and she goes underwater.
Yes.
And the reflection's still looking.
Yes, that was so good. That was awesome. So good. I love the film. I really do. I think we saw a lot of range for Harry Styles. I think we got to see a lot of Olivia Wilde's facial acting too in it, because even though her character didn't really say a lot, it was all in her face.
Yeah.
It really was. I loved it. I love that they paid attention to all those little details. I was telling Nikki, one of my theories is not that they're referencing Alice in Wonderland, but how it's a play on the character, because I don't remember if the author of Alice in Wonderland's name is Frank, but if it is, the main protagonist is Alice, she has the black bow in her hair when she has the pink dress when they're going to the party. Mm-hmm. And I mean, her name is Alice, she's blonde, she's essentially in a rabbit hole and nothing is as it seems, and they have the classic black and white checkerboard where the lady is vacuuming the floor. I was like, hello? What is happening? But yeah, overall I love the movie. One of the things that I do want to see for Florence Pugh in the future, I feel she's such a serious actress, and I feel she's kind of, to some degree, I don't want to say she's been typecast, because I don't know, I'm not a director, but I feel typecasting is when they get set in one specific role. I feel she's the tortured
I wouldn't
character.
Well, no, because I wouldn't. Actually, no, wait. I would have to watch it again, but I'm pretty sure she was kind of like that in Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Because she was the side chick, right?
Mm-hmm. She was a side chick. She ended up unaliving herself.
Yeah. Based
on a real person, but still tortured character. Right. Midsummer, obviously.
But the whole point of that was that she found happiness at the end.
Happiness or hysteria off of shrooms. Either way.
We're arguing semantics now. I mean,
we'll get into that when we
she's got that creepy ass smile.
She does. It's so bad.
That was the creepiest smile I've ever seen.
It was amazing. But yeah, I like it. Would you watch it again?
I think I would watch it again just to see certain things.
Details.
Maybe when I install a new system, but just to. It's not my favorite. Would you? This wouldn't be a horror film. It's a thriller, right?
It's a genre of horror.
Kinda. Okay. So if
More
it's
like sci-fi horror.
Kinda. Okay. So I wouldn't say it's my favorite horror movie. But I like that it's one of those with an actual story. Like there weren't cheap jump scares, but there was stuff that kept you like, what the fuck?
Yeah, for sure.
You know, without it being like creepy. Well, no, it was. There were certain parts that were creepy, but that wasn't the tone of the entire film.
Yeah.
Like
it was balanced.
Like Midsommar was creepy the entire fucking movie.
You're like, something's wrong.
You know it from the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, you know, but yeah, this one you had the creepy slowly came out, and even when it was full creepy, it wasn't Midsommar creepy. It wasn't Hereditary creepy. But it was still up there, and I like a good thriller / horror that's got a good story.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I still keep it at a 9 out of 10.
Fair.
Because to me, a 10 out of 10 to me is Hereditary.
That's fair.
That's my opinion.
That's fair.
So, and I would watch Hereditary as much as it scares the shit out of me. I would rather watch that than watch this. If I had to choose.
Right.
You know, if I had to choose, I would watch Hereditary again.
Would you say this is a good Valentine's Day movie to watch with your boo?
No. That's the opposite of love. No. That's psych ward fucking hospital grip socks type shit. Like, dude, Harry Styles should be in the psych ward.
He should.
Banging his head against the wall. I mean.
Like Margaret.
Yeah. But like, he should be heavily sedated. That's creepy.
Well, he's dead, so it's fine.
Because that's like saying those 50 Shades of whatever movies are romantic. No, they're creepy.
Not. Yeah.
Dude wants to fuck women that look like his mom.
You know it's a Twilight fanfic? Yeah.
Ew,
so
why?
Originally, it started out on Wattpad. The writer of the books did it as like a Twilight fanfic.
Do the Twilight people fuck their mom?
No.
That's the basis of I know it's not his actual mom.
Yeah.
But people that look like his mother figure, that's disgusting.
Yeah, Oedipus complex. Yeah.
That's disgusting. And women think that's romantic. And I'm like, why?
It's not. It's just because he looks handsome.
Yeah, if he was like Harry Styles in the real world, in this movie, they wouldn't be saying that. I remember some chick made me watch it with her, and I'm like, what's wrong with you?
You're like, I'm not attracted right now. I'm actually kind of scared.
I don't make love. I fuck. You fucking ruined this movie, bro.
We love Dakota.
Oh, no, she's a great actress. She's an excellent actress, but God.
I'm excited for the new movie that she's going to be in, Madam Web.
Oh, yeah. She's also coming out, I just saw a commercial for it. She's in another movie coming out. I just can't think of it. But she's been coming out in a couple films recently. And I'm excited for that too. I kind of wondered if they were ever going to bring Madam Web into any sort of movie, because it was only ever in that cartoon.
Yeah.
And obviously the comic books, but when it comes to being on television or on the big screen, she's never even been mentioned.
And that's something that I want to get into when it comes to like female superheroes when we review the Marvels. Because like we've talked about how bad it did on release and how much flack it got. And the movie wasn't as like, it wasn't shit to how they were saying that.
Because I think people forget that the first phase of the MCU, not all the movies were good either. You know, I didn't like well, it's not that I didn't like him. It's like I wouldn't rewatch them.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see the big deal about Black Panther.
Woo!
It's like, I get it. It's all black actors. That's cool and everything. But the movie wasn't, I just don't get the big deal. Mm-hmm. You know, like, I get what that means.
The symbolism.
Mm-hmm. I completely understand that. That doesn't make it the best MCU movie.
Wakanda forever, Nikki.
You know? But I like the actors. I love them all. You know, Angela Bassett, fucking, what was the guy that played T'Challa?
Chadwick Boseman,
yeah, rest in peace. And even his sister, the girl who plays his sister, everybody in there. The girl from Us, she's in there. There you go.
Abadi.
I love her. But, you know, all great actors, but then just the hype it got over it, and I just like, I don't get the big deal.
But I feel like that's so common though and I know we're going off into a tangent, but I feel like that's so common with Marvel movies. They have such a strong following that there's so much expectation either built up around them post-release or before, you know?
And the thing is that they focus too much on the symbolism of the movie rather than it just being related to the MCU.
Okay.
Like, what is this movie going to represent?
Like, it wasn't really, you feel like it wasn't fully integrated?
Not 100%.
Okay.
I mean, not to say it shouldn't have just been a Black Panther movie. That's what it was. But they made it like all political, and it's like, oh, you know, like nothing wrong with that. But that's not, like, I don't know. It just shouldn't. I feel like they made it more about that than what the actual movie's about.
Okay.
Which is, you know, the Black Panther fighting for his throne. And even the bad guy that played
Killmonger, Michael B.
Jordan, fucking awesome actor. Everything about that,
like, you feel like they could have done more, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it just wasn't that exciting, to be honest. Like, I don't know, compared to the other MCU movies. I mean, Captain America: Winter Soldier is still my favorite, and even some of the Avengers. Doctor Strange is obviously up there. You know, but I didn't like all the Iron Man movies. I feel like the fights were too fast. Like, at least with Black Panther, I'll give it this. They had an actual fight.
Yeah. They threw hands.
Yeah, like they fucking beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
Whereas Iron Man was kind of quick.
Yeah.
And same thing with, what was the other one? I think it was Thor, where it was kind of fast too. Like, all he did was...
I feel like, as far as Thor goes, his character as a whole, he's kind of been made into like a running joke. Yeah. And I kind of don't like that.
They keep doing that with the most powerful people too. Like, because they've done that with Superman too.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like it kind of, I feel like Marvel in itself, where they are now, they're at this point of, they're trying to make it family friendly, but they're also trying to appease the adult fans.
But it's like, fuck the kids, because who cares? They're probably going to watch it anyways.
True.
At this day and age, they watch rated R movies. Like, I watched rated R movies when I was a kid. Yeah. But they don't even get that rated R. As long as there's no sex scenes, I say let the kids watch it. Yeah. Like, who cares?
That's fair. But I feel like... swear. True. But I feel like it is that thing where, like, that's why I'm interested to see what's going to happen with Madam Web as far as, like, another superhero film. Because Blue Beetle was so good. Yeah. Blue Beetle was so good.
The first DC movie that was actually good in a long time. And that's sad.
It is.
Because what was the last good one before that? Besides the Snyder Cut? Wonder Woman? I mean, I like Man of Steel, but I think that was the first one in the DC.
In the DCEU, yeah.
So, and then Wonder Woman came. Wasn't a huge fan of Aquaman. I think Jason Momoa is kind of like... I love him, but he's just like, he's too cool to be...
He's too pretty to be Aquaman.
Like, he's just too cool. Like, he's... You know, if you see Aquaman in any other...
He's dorky.
I wouldn't say dorky. He's more like... He's like a king. He's like royalty. You know, and Jason was like, I'm too cool to be king. I have long hair, and Hawaiian tattoos. Like, dude, relax.
I'm fucking dead. But yeah, no, that's why I'm curious about like what's gonna happen with Madam Web moving forward. But that is it for today's episode. Thank you for tuning in. I love Don't Worry Darling. I do give it a 10. But that's just because
you're biased.
Yeah, I am. But I love it. I think it's definitely a good movie to watch. It is, like Nikki said, not a movie you can't pay attention to. So it's not a background film. You actually have to sit and pay attention. So if your attention span is not about that, don't.
You will miss, like, there's
a good chunk of it.
Not even like 2 moments, like 20 moments.
Yeah.
Where it's like a blink of an eye, you'll miss it.
Yeah. So if you love thrillers, you love psychological concept films, this is definitely a good movie for you to check out. I hope everyone had a great time. I hope you have a wonderful week, and we will catch you on the next episode. Tee.
Tee.
Bitch. Okay, love you. Bye.